Haitian guy named Toot. Somebody named Eddie Keats came to see me. They left me with a couple of stitches in my head. Bartender at Smiling Jack said he sicked them on me by calling one of your clubs.
Alec Baldwin and Eric Roberts play childhood friends who are now potential enemies in Heaven's Prisoners, a new thriller that's one of 5 new movies we'll review this week on Siskel and Ebert. Also coming up, film starring Paul Hogan, Antonio Banderas, Jennifer Connelly, and the dolphin named Flipper. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. Our first film is Heaven's Prisoners, and it stars Alec Baldwin as a former New Orleans detective, now a drying-out alcoholic who is brought back into the sordid underworld he left after he and his wife save a little Latino girl who survives a mysterious plane crash. Suddenly, he's being pursued by drug dealers, and that scares his wife, played by Kelly Lynch.
Somebody came here?
Yeah. Don't worry, I took care of it.
Well, hey. Did the guy say what he wanted?
What he wanted was to scare the out of me and Alec Fair, and that's exactly what he did.
After his wife is murdered, Alec Baldwin starts drinking again, what a surprise, and is tempted by a local drug lord's vampish wife, played by Terry Hatcher from TV's Lois and Clark. Her character only makes sense in a comic book way.
Where's your husband?
In Houston, on business.
Well, how nice for you.
And maybe for you, too.
The third woman in Alec Baldwin's life, a local stripper with, all together now, a heart of gold, played by Mary Stuart Masterson. This movie is more of a parade of women than a genuine thriller.
Oh, that's right. You work at that little place on Bourbon, Smiling Jack's. That's right. Now I remember you, too. You came in one time with a couple of real pretty girls, asked me to work a private slumber party. But I don't really go in for that sort of thing. I think you got me mixed up with someone else. Well, maybe you're right. The girl I'm talking about was real trash.
The Terry Hatcher character turns out to be a key player, but I never found her convincing, even with this nice speech.
I bought the hit on you. So what are you gonna do now, Dave? Kill me? Go on. Go on, do it. Do it. Come on, Dave. Come on, blow me away.
Heaven's Prisoners covers the familiar New Orleans turf from Bourbon Street to Bayous. Alec Baldwin winds up playing a variation on the character that Dennis Quaid played in The Big Easy 9 years ago. But that film felt fresh, not Heaven's Prisoners. We've been there, we've seen that, all to the time in this picture. Thumbs down from me.
Thumbs down for me, too, Gene.
Yeah.
It was a movie that constantly continued to act like it knew that it was a movie.
Oh, absolutely.
There was never any moment when I felt that this man was really engaged with his wife, that he was engaged with the other women who appear later in the film. It always seemed as if the plot is just dropping these things in, just like that plane that drops in at the beginning. It's all made up out of nothing.
It was a real waste.
Okay, next movie. And our next movie is Welcome to the Dollhouse, an extraordinary film that remembers with great clarity just how painful and difficult school can be and how cruel students can be to other kids who are not popular. As the movie opens, a 7th grader named Dawn, played by Heather Matarazzo, is making her way through the lunchroom as if it were a minefield. Dawn has a nerdy brother named Mark who is always thinking about his future college career and starts a garage band that features a very popular senior named Steve. Of course, Dawn develops an immediate, hopeless crush on Steve.
I gotta blow her down. She looks like you, a little girl.
Now she wants her brother to tell her all about him.
When you say he'd go out with any girl, as long as they're willing to go all the way, does that mean they have to also be pretty?
You know Tammy Steinfeld from Carpool?
Yeah.
Okay, do you think she's pretty?
Not that pretty, really.
Dawn, she's a dog, and he did it with her.
Has he ever done it with anyone younger than high school?
In school, Dawn can't do anything right. When she reports on another student for cheating, she gets punished too. Things go from bad to worse, and when the principal calls in her parents, no one is even slightly interested in her version of the story.
I shot a spitball.
You shot a what?
She shot a spitball.
A teacher was almost blinded.
I was fighting back.
Whoever told you to fight back?
The truth is that for every pretty and popular student like the one Alicia Silverstone plays in Clueless, there are probably half a dozen like the one Heather Matarazzo plays in Welcome to the Dollhouse. But in her own way, she's a heroine who looks and listens and learns and tries to figure out strategies to cope, and she figures them out within the terms that kids that age really do have. Welcome to the Dollhouse is almost profound in the way it captures this everyday reality. I was surprised and impressed by how much this movie knows about human nature. I think it's a real sleeper, one of the year's best films.
I thought it was one of the year's best films, too. This is very smart. It does not wrap up the story with a sweet ending, and I think the film is smart about that. Also, you left out the whole business of her family's attitude toward her. I think watching it from afar, you say, now, why don't the parents take a little interest in her and dress her up? I mean, they're partly responsible, too, for her. So it's the weight of the world at school and the weight of the world at home with a cute younger sister. I mean, think about the resentment a child must feel toward a sibling who's the pretty one. You know, she's got, they've captured that, too. And the they is really one person, Todd Solondz. This is a new filmmaker and a wonderful
very talented one. You know, Gene, as I was watching this film, it was interesting because a lot of these movies about teenagers, even real good ones, like Say Anything and Clueless, this is a pre-teenager, but, you know, kids in high school. Yeah. I'm sitting there looking at the movies, and I'm thinking, these kids today are really smart. I didn't know any of that stuff when I was their age. Now here's a movie that remembers that those kids aren't maybe that smart either. When you're in the 7th grade and you're not popular, you don't have all the answers. You're not speaking in beautifully honed dialogue and little one-liners and quips and things. You're like this painful, silent girl, and that's what I recognize.
And here's another thing. The drive for her to have sex with this glamorous boy also speaks for a lot of the reasons that kids act out and try things that they're really not equipped to handle. And the film is very truthful about that. It doesn't exploit it. It doesn't make it a comic situation. It's painful, too. Coming up next, another hit TV show returns as a movie. Flipper is next.
Jump!
Yes, Flipper, TV's most popular denizen of the sea, is back, but he doesn't get much support in this big screen version, in a film that communicates very little of the beauty and wonder of dolphins. And I'm really surprised they didn't do that. The story is weak as a young boy, Elijah Wood, glum over his parents' recent divorce, is sent for the summer to his uncle's house in the Florida Keys, where he is befriended by a dolphin.
Like my dolphin?
Your dolphin.
That's right. I found him.
What's his name?
His name is Flipper.
The dolphin's tricks are the same ones we've seen for 30 years watching the TV show, and also the first time they made a Flipper movie back in 1963.
Everyone loves the king of the sea. Ever so kind.
Don't ask me how he does it, kid. Even I can't explain it.
The bad guy in the film is a businessman who is dumping toxic waste in the ocean. And here he's confronted by the boy's uncle, played by Paul Hogan of Crocodile Dundee fame. His character is the only original element in the film.
Said enough.
to teach you a lesson. Yeah, I'd like that. I have a thirst for knowledge. Teach me.
Museums across the United States are teaching us a lot about dolphins, but the script of Flipper offers just goofy gimmicks like the Flippo-cam.
But that's his family.
Weird. Now, I'm not asking for this to be a dolphin documentary, but just by coincidence, a couple of years ago, on my vacation with my family down in the Florida Keys, I swam for a few hundred yards with a dolphin named Aphrodite at the excellent Dolphin Research Center. Well, it was magical, all that silky power. Well, I got none of that sense with Flipper, a movie that is totally behind the times. I don't understand, Roger, why they can't, seriously, why not write a script that would teach somebody about something?
Yeah. This is a dumb movie, and you know, I love the touch where the bad guy was throwing the hazardous waste overboard, and then when they get the Flippo-cam down there, you can tell it's hazardous waste because they have the 55-gallon drums, and each one is carefully labeled hazardous waste. I'm sure they paint it on there right before they throw it off. It's a silly movie. And, you know, Elijah Wood is a very good actor. I've praised him a lot on this show. He's wasted in this movie. Hogan is a very likable guy. He can just kind of, basically all he does is kind of sit there, and he's likable, but there's no story
Why not, if you're going to make a film about a dolphin, at least pay lip service and teach us one thing? They're going to make money from this. They're going to make a lot of money off of kids from this. Why not give the kids something back?
The thing that I think we really need to ask after having seen this movie is I didn't know before seeing this movie that dolphins can read minds, and Flipper obviously can, just like Lassie, too. When we come back, Passion and Politics. Antonio Banderas and Jennifer Connelly star in Of Love and Shadows.
Since 73, the magazine has to cover naked breasts with black patches. And certain words are forbidden.
Such as?
It's childish. Abortion. Us.
Freedom.
Jennifer Connelly plays a young magazine editor in Chile in that scene from our next movie called Of Love and Shadows. Her family is part of the ruling elite, but she has never thought much about the injustice and political oppression in her country before one sunny day in 1978 when she goes out to lunch with a photographer played here by Antonio Banderas. But as he talks, she begins to understand more. The young man is a legitimate photographer, but he's also a secret revolutionary.
What are we doing here?
Camp. Kitsch. Surrealism.
This is how you do this spectacle.
That marks of Freud.
Where have you been since Thursday?
Where do you think?
The drag room there.
So bitter.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just wanted to invite you to have dinner, and then...
Thursday? I'll be free Thursday.
Will you? Really?
What?
Be free?
She's engaged to marry an army officer and tries to deny the growing attraction she feels for Banderas.
Gustavo has waited for me all his life. I'm going to marry him.
The woman makes a secret tape recording implicating the army in a murder, and Banderas wants the tape, but she's afraid it will place him in danger.
Afraid.
That will disappear? Like Evangelina? Like your father?
Of Love and Shadows is based on a novel by Isabel Allende that mirrors real events in Chile in the late 1970s. It exposes real corruption, real betrayal, but it plays like fiction and spends so much time with a love affair that the political intrigue kind of gets overlooked. That keeps it from being really focused, and it's curious how a film with so much activity in it seems to move so slowly. I couldn't believe that only 75 minutes had passed at one point when I looked at my watch. I have a suspicion Banderas and Connelly were cast as much for their beauty and sex appeal as for their acting talent. And although they do have real chemistry together, this film lacks the power of of such other South American political films as Missing, Salvador, and The Official Story. Thumbs down for me.
Oh, for sure, it's just a beauty parade. I mean, as they're photographed, you can see that it's like the covers of romantic novels as they walk together through the mountains. I was very disappointed in this. Isabel Allende has tremendous following of people. She's a hero to a lot of people, and you just think that she's some glamour girl.
Yeah, the things that happen in Chile and the things that she wrote about are more important than, as you put it, a romantic novel, which is basically the revolution, and all of the crimes are just a backdrop for this love story.
No question. Coming up next, The Horseman on the Roof, a wildly romantic epic of Italy and France. Our next film is called The Horseman on the Roof, and it's a ripe romantic adventure set after the fall of Napoleon as Italian revolutionaries hide out in France, fearful of Austria's brutal rule over their homeland. This is a heroic love story that follows the bravery of an Italian cavalry officer who runs for his life and later for the life of his lover. First, he is pursued by a mob convinced that as a stranger, he's spreading the cholera epidemic. That's Olivier Martinez as Angelo, and eventually he's befriended by a beautiful and wealthy married woman played by Juliette Binoche. He wants to protect her too, but she wants to meet up with her distant husband, and she thinks she doesn't need Angelo's help. She's wrong. The question, of course, is whether these two decent people will find happiness together or apart. The scale of the film is impressive. And here, unlike the last picture we reviewed, here's a case where romanticism really works, because we're not watching a documentary, even though it's set in a very specific time and place. This is the picture where the whole style is romantic, and I think it's impressive, and I recommend it on that basis.
Oh, I recommend it too. I thought it was a grand adventure.
Yes.
And the fact that these two people managed to be so decent to each other through all of these adventures, the love attraction grows, yet at the same time the movie resists any kind of a conventional easy payoff because their ideas of chivalry and of proper behavior are so strong, so that it becomes all the more poignant in that ending, which is really a heart-touching ending.
Yes, it is.
It's a wonderfully entertaining movie.
The Horseman on the Roof is the title.
Okay, when we come back, Emma Thompson gave an Oscar-caliber performance last year, but it wasn't in Sense and Sensibility, the movie she got nominated for. Our video pick of the week is next.
The Century Plaza, offering the finest in luxury, service, and Southern California style, adjacent to Beverly Hills on LA's fashionable West Side. The Century Plaza Hotel and Tower, a Westin hotel.
The popular British actress Emma Thompson won an Oscar nomination for Best Actress for her work in last year's Sense and Sensibility, but her performance in that movie wasn't even close to being her best work of the year. She was much more wonderful in a less-known film named Carrington, which is just now coming out on home video, and that's the one she should have been nominated for. In the movie, Thompson plays Dora Carrington, an early 20th century British painter who had a famous love affair with Lytton Strachey, himself a well-known critic and biographer.
I'm sorry, I tend to be rather impulsive in these matters. Like the time I asked Virginia Woolf to marry me.
She turned you down?
No, she accepted. It was ghastly.
And that's Jonathan Pryce as Lytton Strachey. One strange thing about their relationship was that Strachey was homosexual, and Carrington knew it, but that didn't shake their lifelong commitment to one another.
I'm so old and diseased. I wish I was more able.
It doesn't matter.
What do you think we ought to do about the physical?
I don't mind about that.
But you should.
Carrington was one of last year's best movies, and it's my video pick of the week. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs down for the overwrought and melodramatic Heaven's Prisoners, which has too much plot for its own good. But 2 very enthusiastic thumbs up for the highly original and challenging Welcome to the Dollhouse, with its wonderful performance by Heather Matarazzo as an unpopular but determined 11-year-old. The film opens next week in New York and rolls out across the country during the following weeks. Congratulations to director Todd Solondz. 2 thumbs down for Flipper, which plays like a Free Willy wannabe. 2 more thumbs down for the well-meaning of Love and Shadows, which can't decide between political expose and romantic melodrama. And finally, 2 thumbs up for the well-made and exciting adventure story, The Horseman on the Roof.
Okay, that's it for this week. Next week, we'll be back with a special show called Siskel and Ebert's Family Values. We'll recommend 10 good recent films families can see together. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.